to the entertaining Talkin' Sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video as the NFL Draft Combine is underway. The quarterbacks are there. They had their hands measured, and I'm not gonna speak about that. But obviously, once the drills get going, which I believe starts Thursday, I'll definitely be covering that. I may even live stream it. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, what the quarterbacks do, even though we're not taking a quarterback, will have a lot to do with what we decide to do in our draft, because it may give us the ability to trade down if these guys blow teams away. So that's something that we definitely want to keep an eye on, along with obviously focusing on the pass rushers, the wide receivers, the offensive linemen, things of that nature. And then obviously have a mock draft up after that. But this video is going to be about whether or not I think the New York Giants should accelerate their plan in terms of trying to compete for the playoffs based on the new CBA. Now, I've read a couple of articles, mainly by NJ.com, talking about because the NFL is expanding from 6 playoff teams to 7, the New York Giants should accelerate their plan to try to compete this year, and for the most part, paraphrasing a bit, should go hog wild in free agency, because in my opinion, that's the only way that you would accelerate it. Because the New York Giants have some cap space money, and I have been, of the thinking for a while now, and I've come out and said that I think the Giants should try to sign these guys to cost-effective deals on short-term contracts. I don't mind spending $10, $11, $12 million a year as long as it's a 2 or 3 year deal, because I want to keep that cap space open over the course of time so I can retain the players that we've drafted. Dave Gettleman, to his credit, has drafted very well the last 2 years, and there's a number of players on this team that you're going to want to keep here long-term. To be able to do that, you're going to need cap space available. And if you go out there and you sign a bunch of guys like they did in 2016 to 5-year deals, you're not going to be able to do that. And to me, that would be what accelerates the process. Bring in the 3 best guys at their position on the open market, if you could even do that, if they'd want to come here. And the only way they'd want to come here is if you did what you did in 2016 when you signed them all to 5-year deals. And would that make this year's team better? Absolutely. But could it hurt us down the line like it did in 2016? You're damn right it could. But according to NJ.com, because one extra team makes the playoffs, they think it is smarter for the New York Giants to accelerate the process. Now, in fairness to them, they also pointed out the fact, which I think is a fair thing to point out, with the addition of an extra game per season, it may shorten Saquon Barkley's career even shorter than it was already projected to be, because obviously he's probably going to be getting more carries. My answer to that would be, and I think it's something that a lot of coaches and general managers have to think about when it comes to the running back position, I would put him on a pitch count like they do in baseball. I would not want his career shortened because of an extra game. You have to make sure he doesn't exceed a certain amount of carries. And I think that's something that will come more and more into play over the course of time, especially when you invest a pick as highly as the New York Giants did on Barkley. You want to try to get the most out of him. So I would not run the guy into the ground, especially in a year where we may or may not be competing. We do not know that yet. Now, if we're being fair and honest, the New York Giants have won 9 games in their last 2 years. To expect them to win 9 games this year is asking a lot. Could it happen? Absolutely. It happens all the time in the NFL. But it's not something I'm going to go into the season telling you guys that I expect. I expect us to make the playoffs. There are steps in the process if you try to build a team the right way. Yes, the 49ers jumped from, I think it was 4 or 5 wins to the Super Bowl this year. But that was a process. They were going to be a much more competitive team the year before Jimmy Garoppolo had gone down. They had a few years of drafting well. It just so happens that, in essence, they got lucky to get Bosa because Garoppolo went down. Had Garoppolo been the quarterback, they probably won at least 8 games the year before. So I still think the Giants, in my honest opinion, are a year away unless they try to accelerate the process, which could make them a playoff team. I won't deny that. But it could also be a horrible decision for their long-term growth. I don't need to keep reliving what happened in 2016. They brought in the best available nose tackle. They brought in the best available cornerback. They brought in the best available edge rusher. Or one of, anyway. And it gave the New York Giants 1 year of success in which they didn't even win a playoff game. Now, is it possible you go on a magical run like you did in 2007 and 2011? Yeah, but that's not something that you want to bank on. In my opinion, you want to set it up the right way, like they did leading up into that 2007 season and ultimately the 2008 Super Bowl. People forget that team. Yeah, we snuck in at 10-6 and 9-7 with the other team, but that team was being set up before that. They had gone to the playoffs the 2 previous years. This team is coming off a 4-12 season. Okay, we're not at that level yet. We're just not. That team had an established offensive line. They had an established ground game. They had an established defense. This team's nowhere near that. And I don't think a couple of players is going to make this team turn from a 4-12 team with probably the league's worst defense into a Super Bowl contender in 1 year. I just don't think Rome was built in a day. And I think the New York Giants and Dave Gettleman have to take that approach as they've expressed. Now, the addition of one additional team, yes, obviously it's going to increase the chances, not just for the Giants, but everybody in the NFC to make the playoffs. But when you go back and look at the last 4 years, you're still going to need more than likely a 9-7 record, and if not that, certainly 8-8. There has not been a team with a 500 record that would have gotten in since 2015. The 7th seed in 2015 would have been an 8-8 record. In 16 and 17, they were both 9-7, 8-7-1 in 18, and 9-7 this previous year. So history shows us that you're going to need probably 9 wins to get in as the 7th seed, and that would be a 5-win jump. That's asking a lot, and even if they were able to do that, you're still asking a team with a second-year quarterback with a, at best, average offensive line. I think that's fair to say, even if they patch some of these holes, and at best, an average defense to go on a miraculous run. Now, there's no evidence that Daniel Jones is capable of doing that. He's never shown that, and I don't think banking on 1 year would be the prudent approach. But according to NJ.com, and I guess some people that align with their line of thinking, they think because of the new CBA, it should accelerate the process for the New York Giants. And here's the article, and here's what they had to say. The jump from 6 to 7 teams may not seem like much, but it's gigantic, writes NJ.com's Joe Gigolo. That's especially so in a tough NFC. The Giants, like every team, likely have some sort of predictive model. Just don't tell general manager Dave Gettleman as they continue to throw jabs at Dave Gettleman. I saw them write another article today. They just hate Dave Gettleman. It's not just them, it's the whole press. For upcoming win-loss record, let's say that number is close to 7-9 for 2020 in terms of the Giants' projected record this year, which I think is fair. I think 6 or 7 wins is a fair estimate based on the new coaching staff, based on another year of experience. Adding an extra a team to the format means a jump of just 1 or 2 wins will be enough to be a true contender. And a true wild card or playoff contender, absolutely. And maybe even a division winner. I think the Eagles won 9 games this year, and the division's not getting much better. The Eagles didn't draft that well last year. We'll see what they do in free agency. The Cowboys could certainly be better with the addition of Mike McCarthy. We'll have to wait and see. But this division, yeah, it is up for grabs if you could win 9 or 10 games. I don't think it's the best division in the league. I don't think anybody would debate that. So, yeah, is there a chance the Giants could make the playoffs in 2020? Yes. And I never give up on a season before it starts. But I do think the smarter approach would be to continue to do what I've expressed. Short-term deals, turn these guys over, and keep these guys on the roster that are young on extensions that you see that you should. If you go out there and you spend 3 5-year deals, you're either going to have to take a dead cap hit when these guys fall off, or you're not going to be able to retain as many players as you would like that are currently on the roster. Guys like DeAndre Baker, Dexter Lawrence, Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, guys that we've drafted, O'Shane Ximines, that you'd want to keep on this roster. And it's something that definitely needs to be considered. And there's other guys on the team that have contracts that are coming up in the near future. Jabril Peppers, right? And a few others. Evan Ingram, if you decide to keep him. So that needs to be taken into account. Now, if I took this approach, and if Dave Gettleman felt pressured to try to win this year, and they said, oh, there's an extra playoff team, we need to make a jump right now, what players would I look to sign? What players would make the most immediate impact on this team? I would try to get a supreme edge rusher, but that's going to cost me a 5-year contract. There's no doubt about it. Whether that's Ngakoue, whoever is the best Clowney available edge rusher on the open market that could give my team an immediate impact. And I would go after Jack Conklin if he was available. I would throw a ton of money at him, like they did with Nate Solder. If I was trying to make the playoffs this year. And then, whatever else, maybe Byron Jones, whoever it may be. But that is not the right approach. To me, the right approach in this year's free agency process is to try to find guys that could help the team, that still have a couple years left in the tank, that you could sign on 2 or 3-year deals. Whether that's veterans, guys like McCourty or Van Noy, or whether that's guys that haven't really hit their ceiling yet, that are hitting the open market, someone like a Shaquille Barrett last year, that have potential, and you try to get the most out of them and sign them to 2 or 3-year deals. So you could still go the young route, but I don't want to go for the high price guy in terms of the young route. I don't want to sign 5-year deals. And if you're gonna, I only want to sign 1. I do not want to go hog wild. I don't care that there's an extra team making the playoffs. That has no bearing on what I would do if I was Dave Gettleman and what I think Dave Gettleman will do as the general manager of the New York Giants. John Mara's been on record of saying that the New York Giants should not go hog wild. They should build through the draft. And to the Giants' credit, as much as it sucked the last 2 years, we've been patient, we've been diligent, we've built through the draft, and I hope we continue to do that. because one extra team makes the playoffs, that should not alter the offseason plans for the New York Giants. To me, that argument makes no sense whatsoever. Now, do we have a chance of sneaking in? Yes. Anything could happen in the NFL. But I'm not going hog wild like John Mara has said from the start. I'm not doing it. It's a silly approach in my opinion. And when NJ.com writes that and when people agree with that, to me, that's saying that's what you would do. Because the only way you're going to accelerate this process is if you go hog wild in free agency like they did in 2016 and bring in the best possible guys on the longest possible contracts. And when you do that, you help yourself in the short term, but you're not helping yourself long term. Matter of fact, you're hurting yourself long term because as we've seen with those other free agents, more than likely they're not going to live out the course of that contract. More than likely you're going to end up either trading them like we did with Damon Snacks Harrison. You're going to end up cutting them like the Lions ended up doing with Damon Snacks Harrison and what is being reported that the Browns may be doing with Olivier Vernon, what the Giants did with Janoris Jenkins. None of those guys saw the conclusion of their contract. None of those guys saw it through. So it's a short-term solution for a long-term problem. Doesn't make much sense to me. I don't care that there's an extra playoff team. I want this team to be strong and competitive for a decade. I don't care about a 1 or 2 year stretch. And when you take short-term approaches, that's what happens. So that's my take on it. Just because an extra team makes the playoffs, I'm not changing my mindset on what I think the New York Giants should do this offseason. As always, guys, if you like what you watch, please subscribe. Drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.